I paid 160 grand to go to college, right? So that was a mentorship in itself.
All right, guys, let's let it rip. Mortgage Daddies, welcome back. Today we got a special guest, one of my good friends, probably the
Hopefully
original.
Vernon's good friend too, right?
I wanted to say
He's
see
a
what happens.
friend of Mortgage Daddies.
He's
known
definitely a
Fabio.
friend. I've known Fabio since the day I got into this business. He was probably the very first realtor that I started working with, thanks to Vern. So we wanted to have you on. It's been a little while. He's a busy guy. You know, it took a while to get his schedule right.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, guys.
I mean, Fabio does have like 9 careers, like one
I
of the
think it's up
busiest
to
guys.
like 15 at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, a little bit of money from everywhere, right? Like that's how I buy coast through life. It's just a little bit here, a little bit there. Nothing's ever like a specialty. It's just kind of like, hey, you're that guy.
yeah, no, but it works for you. I mean, I've learned a lot about you. You know, just sitting here getting ready for the podcast. Tell us a little bit about like how you got into real estate. Is primary. Everybody knows Fabio Bicho as one of the top real estate agents around on the South Coast, and now you're down in Florida on that end too. I know you dabble in a lot of different things, but let's jump into how you kind of got started in real estate.
All right, so we'll go straight from like college to today, right? Because there's quite the journey that goes on there. So in college, was about to graduate my junior year, going into senior year, worked at Barclays, stayed there, was a summer internship, came out, started at Barclays again my senior year after I graduated from college, and then was there again for a full year, decided that wasn't the path I wanted to go down. So I actually went to State Bank, which is basically like Barclays again, was a financial analyst, 6 months, said I'm not doing the salary-based thing, right? What kind of determined that piece was I actually went down to Florida for Christmas, and this was like Christmas through New Year's, stood there for about 3 weeks. And this was probably 2017 at the time. And that's really where I started seeing like the immense development happening in Florida, right? It was like houses were going up like hundreds at a time. And from there, I had a conversation with my mother at the time, because remind you, I'm 31. So this was still living with my parents, right? At the time, I was 23. I was just like, Ma, like, I'm going to snip this, right? And that was the craziest conversation I have with a Portuguese woman, right? So it's like college, salary, job, you're making 80, 100 grand a year at 23.
What are you thinking?
They're like, what the hell is going on, right? So as we progressed through that, came into, got my license, sent Eddie a resume, right? So this was a whole fucking different thing. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
I'm not. Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. So came into it. I'll keep it to a minimum. I see the girls in the background already looking at each other. So
Try to keep it to like 1 or 2 an episode.
Yeah.
So much for our subscribers on YouTube, or Spotify. Now you've just got us kicked off.
No. I think it's like the first 60 seconds is what we had to go through, and I definitely already spoke for more than 60 seconds, right? So came into the real estate game. I was the first. I think I was the 4th agent to ever come into Remax, right? It was me, Alex Machado, Benny, and Eddie, right? So it was just us 4, super, super small. Over the years, it's been 7 or 8 years now since then. We've grown. I think there's like 140 agents there, kind of stood loyal to the program, went through a tons of ups and downs, but really gained my mentorship through there. And I don't know if you guys want me to get into like what that looks like a little bit.
I mean, I think it's something we've talked about quite a bit, where anybody I think that's successful in this type of business has had good mentors,
right?
Been in the right place at the right time. And so many people don't either care about that or realize the importance, where they chase that money up front too quickly.
Absolutely.
So I think touching on that would be really
And it's funny because I talk to a lot of agents, obviously, like I'm a big recruiter there at Remax, and we talk to a lot of agents, and I always tell them the same thing. Like, I paid 160 grand to go to college, right? So that was a mentorship in itself. And back then you had to pay for a mentorship where you can come here and get it for free. And a lot of people like expect something immensely like right up front, and that just doesn't work like that, and you have to go through the cycles. So started at Remax. Benny actually took me under his wing like right away. I learned the entire like personality, kind of how to come in and out of houses, how to ice break conversations. Great guy for that, right? Gave me that entire knowledge of how to write everything up, put things together, really become like that people kind of person. And then I had left his team and joined Scott. So Bizzo was my mentor that he was my right hand, right? One of my best friends. We had a great mentorship there for 3 years before he went and opened up his own brokerage. And he taught me the entire back end. I became the agent I am today 100% from learning everything he taught, right? And the beautiful thing about it was it was a team of 4 at that time, right? So if you remember that, it was a team of 4 people, right? So the mentorship that I was able to get from him was special, right? Because it was more of that one-on-one. It was me, Sarah, him, and his wife. And realistically, it was just me and him in the office at all times. I would go to all the showings with him, all the listing appointments with him, and learned everything. Started acting like him, right? And and I always tell the agents the same thing. It's like you have to take bits and pieces from every one of your mentors in order to mold yourself. You never want to be exactly like them, but take whoever you can and really mold who you are in this business. But the guy completely launched my career, really got in depth into the real estate sales side. And then that's when he left and he started his brokerage, Home and Key. I started my team, built my team there, and now here we are today with Remax there. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey, but it's been one of those things where you never take the mentorships for granted, right? Like I understand. I'll always talk about this, where it's like relationships come and go. Things will never be the same when you kind of split up in different ways. But those mentorships are just never taken for granted from day one, right?
It happens a lot in your business.
Yeah.
I find, like, more than ours. You know, people move and people jump ship or think the grass is greener. But
yeah, of course,
there's not a lot of people that spend, I would say, as much time with certain people in those mentorships to get that kind of education before they go out on their own. Now, when you went out on your own, was there, I know from when I started, I was kind of on, like, under him and on my own, and then went to a team model. I'm like, I don't know if the team thing's for me. Like, I just like to just go. And I don't, it was a learning experience for me to kind of have to pull it back a little bit, slow it down to train people, because there's an end goal there, but you have, it's not forever. I mean, Scott does a great job at it.
100%.
He is a great mentor. He's a great coach.
He's the best systematic team leader, coach, broker that I have seen in this area.
There's multiple. There's that side, and then there's like the kind of like rah get you fired up coaching side that you need, which he's very good at. And I sit back sometimes and I'm like, I don't know, like I'm like,
well, it's funny that you bring that up. It's just easier
for me to close $100 million and shut my door, but at the same time,
with that statement.
It's because you and I have had these conversations
so
I'm like,
many times.
You go and you want to grow this team, then you're like, I don't know if this makes sense. And then we have these conversations back and forth over the years.
Well, just look at yourselves, right? So in order to grow a successful business, your business gets affected, right? Like we just know that. Like when I was building 3427, my business had to take the back seat to make sure that everyone else's business was succeeding. And then you hope that once everyone is kind of stable, you kind of push yourself forward, right? And again, Bizzo, he's the easiest one to talk about, because I it's not that I grew the business with him, because he definitely grew his own business on that end, but I helped kind of I was there while he was putting the structure together for his team, right? And we went back and forth on it. We knew that the business had to take a hit in order for the company, which was the team, to grow, right? And it's one of the hardest things to do, because there's an ego hit that happens in there, right? And you go from being like top dog to top supporter, right? Or top mentor or top leader. And it's just it's a hard thing to deal with mentally sometimes.
Listen, I went through that, spending a number of years being a top guy and always racing and following the scoreboard to the top, and they're like, hey, I'm the best guy around, do the most numbers.
Yep.
And then fast forward, open up Milestone. I'm like, I'm just gonna hang out, a couple loan officers. Next thing you know, Craig comes along, and I'm like, well, this guy's got it. Oh, this guy just passed me. Okay, let me go back into this. And just to bounce back to that is, you have two options, right? As a leader or as a top producer who wants to become a leader or a team leader or manager, is you either work on your business or in your business.
100%.
So if you're working in your business, you're going to be able to maintain your sales numbers and all that. If you're working on the business, you're really building the culture that it's all about. You're building up the morale of the team. You're training, you're coaching. And it does take a big ego hit. Like, it took me a minute.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, hey, listen, I just sat at my house being like, oh, yeah, I love seeing everybody else's name around me. Like, there's other loan officers at Milestone that are doing more volume than me now. And I'm like, you get used to seeing your name in the different magazines or whatever. Everybody knows who you are, to now backseat, growing up everybody else's business,
Yep.
watching them succeed, and then wanting them to do better than you've ever done before.
Absolutely.
And that's working on your business, right? And I think,
100%,
you know,
yeah.
just talking to, you know, about Scott, that's one of the things that I look back at his progression over the last 3 to 5 years. He was always a top producer
Always,
in
yeah.
the area, right? So like all of a sudden, you don't see him at listings or anything like that, but he's still running one of the most successful teams around. And that tells you, like, you start growing up. I think, like, you know,
Yeah.
you said you're 31,
Yep.
33. I'm like 25 again. You know, in my
29
head.
forever. I get it.
That's like one of the hardest things to do is like, but when you do take that step back and you start seeing some of the growth and you
Right.
start seeing some of the scalability of the business,
Right.
you're like, you know what, this is the right decision.
and
But that leeway time is
and
tough.
you find your passion. It's funny, right? So when I have these conversations, so I speak to Ron about this a lot, right? Where Ron is now a mentor of mine, like through the investment side of things and like through property, right? Guy owns hundreds of properties, and it's one of those things where it's never been my forte, right? So there's something that I speak to him about all the time, and he'll tell me like, all right, like, why are you so passionate about like the training and the stuff that we do at Remax? And it's one of those things where you almost have a calling, right? And when you start going into play of like what your passion really is, you just have to deep dive into that. So I always tell people where it's like, I hope the day that I turn 50, I'm just a professor at some college, hopefully Roger Williams, right? Because that's
You
where I
already
came
got
from.
the turtleneck. You're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Ready to go. Looks like a professor.
Right. And it's just one
Got
of
the
those things.
whole
that I'm-
outfit. You're ready for
well,
it, man.
listen, I came here. I was like, hey, I wasn't sure if I was going to turn on my black shirt, but I have my black T-shirt on. I even brought my little gym bag. I'm like, I'm not really sure how these guys are dressed, but you guys told me to keep it on, so here we
I
are.
love it.
It's just, but again, guys, like going into it, it's just one of those things where I'm like, hey, you find that passion. You don't even know if that's your passion yet at a time, right? Like going into it, I love selling the real estate, right? Because you're so used to making money like that sometimes, right? Where the second that you take the step back to like grow your company and your team, you don't even know how the income's going to come in to protect your family at points, right? And that's the biggest, I think like that's the scary point there, right? Where it's like, look at yourself, Vern, right? You went from doing the hundreds of millions of close volume, which I'm sure you still do now with your team, right? But at one point there, you had to take a step back and be like, okay, now let me go build the company. You went and take not only the ego hit on that, but the monetary hit as well, because obviously like you don't grow a company and it's just making millions of dollars, right? You have to take the step back to really take that step forward. And there's so much nerves that happens within that 1 or 2 years and a lot of doubt, right? Like the doubt is what kills you, where you're like, shit, am I going to make it? Is this going to happen? Are these people going to continue to trust me? I think one of the biggest things that I've learned growing through like the mentorships and becoming a mentor here at Remax now, it's one of those things where it's like, are people going to fit in to me, or am I going to have to adapt to them? Right? Are people never going to leave me? Are they going to have the same loyalty that I've had here for 8 years? Right? It's always something that runs through our minds that, and people, and we don't like talking about it, right? But it's like, it's always something that runs through our minds where we're like, shit, I just hope to God everyone's appreciating the time that I let go that I had to put into them.
I think that's why you don't see a lot of people do it. You know, whether it's real estate or building a mortgage. I mean, how many loan officers stay as a loan officer forever? You know, maybe they have a small team, but they don't have a massive team, or they don't, you know, build their own company, because it's a lot of work that goes into it. And it's a lot of, you got to give up a lot to get a lot, hopefully. But it's one of those things where, well, you could just sit back with, you know, you could run a very successful real estate team with probably 2 people on your team, you know, some sort of an admin and some sort of a helper to run around and probably make more money than you're making now doing it, which we've had these conversations with. But it's like, all right, at what point do you want to build something better?
Yeah, it's seeing the vision and sticking to the plan, right? Like that vision, it's so scary. It's so scary because it's like, you always have to trust the process. I mean, Ron talk about it a lot, where it's like, hey, like everything we're doing is 2-3 years ahead of us, but you have to start it today, right? And you have to trust the process from now. And that's the scariest thing to have like kind of wrap your head around, where it's like, hey, you're about to go lose 20-30 hours a week that you used to put into yourself, your family, your own business. But you have to trust that you will gain that back 2-3 years from now. And it's like, look at you guys, right? So it's like, you had to trust that process, especially you, Vern, at the beginning, right? 4 or 5 years ago, you had to trust that process. How long you guys been around now? 6 years?
Yeah, it'll be 6 years in March.
Yeah, 6 years in March, and it's like that day. And think about it. Think about, and I was with Vernon, just so just so we're all on like the
On
same
day
page,
one.
right? I was with
And
V on
before.
day one, and we saw so many people come in and out, right? Because we don't know what works yet, right? It's like you're starting from scratch. It's like, yeah, successful mortgage loan officer, right? Was always one of the biggest guys in the area, knew the back end of the system, but it doesn't mean the back end of the system works for you. It just worked for the company you were working for, right? So in and out, people in and out, people in and out, until it was like one of those things where Vernon figured out what was needed, put people into place, and it's been such a ride since, right? It's
I think the number one thing that I got lucky on, right? This was not a vision. I did not sit down and write up my business plan the night before or anything. Is I just got lucky with the people that came in to Milestone within that first like 12 months, right?
Right.
The Craigs, the Rachels, the support, having a strong backing at home, a wife who understood the mortgage business and understood like, hey, I might be gone 70, 80 hours this week and maybe this month every single week for 2 years in a row. Without that, I don't think that succeeds. So I think a lot of people take a step back and don't jump off because it starts at home. Like, right, I always say
Absolutely.
that. Starts at home. You have a good, strong backing there. And then you surround yourself with good quality, high energy people that fit your culture, that have to fit your personality. Everybody's got different ones. But then you also have to hire the people around you that have strengths where you are the weakest.
100%.
And you have to trust
and
them.
you have to know. So it's funny, right? So going back to those 6 years ago, and we've all grown so much since, right? But going back to those 6 years ago, I remember the days that I would go into Vernon's office and not trust the soul, right? Where it was like, if you were my buyer, Vernon would sit there and I would be there going through every bit and piece.
I
Oh, I
remember.
remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
yeah, horrible. That's why he was like,
Fabio's coming in with
maybe,
buyers.
maybe you should go. Maybe you should go to Craig.
2-hour consult.
But that's just how it was, right? And I had to learn to grow from there, where it was almost a reality check, right? Where when I remember the day that we all sat down together, and Vernon was like, "Hey, bro, like Craig will just have more time for how you run your business." Again, ego hit. Don't tell me what to do. Blah blah blah. Right? But it was the truth,
And
right?
the best
it was,
thing for you.
and it was the best thing for
In
me,
your
right?
business.
100%. And it helped launch and help your career out as well, because you had to deal with an agent that also knew your business, right? But there's two different agents, right? There's an agent that's like super anal on top of everything all the time, and then there's the lackadaisical one that's just like passes it on, forgets about everything. I now became that agent where you guys have to kind of like shoot me down to get a lead paint disclosure.
Fabio, answer your fucking email.
Yeah, but that all came from growth. And honest to God, if it was like that, you would hate me way more being like that.
No, I remember you were like that when you started, and I think it took trust. It took a while before, like, and we almost, I wouldn't say ever got in like fights about it, but it almost came to the point a few times where I'm like, dude, you either trust me or you don't.
Yeah.
And then you kind of backed off a little bit because you knew more about mortgages than the normal realtor. So you always kind of like knew the questions to ask. Like if it was a no, you don't just tell Fabio no. It's what's the reason?
This?
Well, here's the reason. Dex didn't come, blah, 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 blah. Like the whole nine where other agents don't care about it. So that was just getting used to it.
And I was just so buyer heavy, right? So like our biggest year, the year that we flipped over, I think me and Snell did like 38, 40 buyers in a year together, right? And I was just such a buyer heavy agent where I'm just like, shit, like this is my bread and butter, right? And it's like
every one means a lot.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where I'm like, you have to rely, and this is another thing, right? So it's like you have to rely on someone else in this business to make you money, right? Like even you guys can do a hell of a job.
To be honest with you, most of the top agents, unless they just operate a massive team where they don't care, but most of the top agents are kind of like that to a point.
Yeah.
Kind of like they want to know, they're on top of their stuff. They're not lackadaisical. They are on it and they want to know why it doesn't work or what can be done, because they look at every lead as a closing. And, and if there's something stopping it, okay, what do we have to do to fix that so that we can go to that next piece, where there's so many agents that are just like, okay, whatever, move on and hope they get another person that calls them.
And we go through it a lot where a lot of my agents actually from Remax will ask me like, hey, how do you get so many people over to Snell? And I just tell everyone the same thing. I'm like, majority of the time I don't work with you unless you're working with all my team, right? So it's like, if you're not working with my team of people, I'm probably not working with you. A lot of people be like, oh, is that like not legal? I'm like, no, I just choose not to work with you. It just is what it is. It's only legal. It's only legal if you're gonna if it's a forced conversation, right? And it's like,
What's your reason for that? Because I think that's important.
yeah.
You know, I don't necessarily say this to people, but there are quite a few agents I work with that have a very similar mindset to you, and it's nothing that I tell you to have. There's
Right.
nothing that we don't even have any marketing stuff together anymore.
Easy conversation, right? So my easiest conversation is, well, my easiest answer to that is it allows me to fall asleep, right? Like I don't need to care if that deal is going to close or not, right? That's number one. And that is the most important thing that like buyers really need to understand. And I know this is kind of entrepreneur kind of podcast here, but we'll get into the buyers for like 2 seconds here. Like a lot of buyers have this understanding where it's like, oh, they have a better rate over here. And I'm like, okay, they're not going to answer you after 5 o'clock. They're not answering you on the weekends. When there's a tough conversation to have, I can guarantee you the mortgage lender will send you an email and not pick up the phone and call, right? And that to me is like the lowest level of service that you can possibly get, where the highest level of service, I want my buyer, I can guarantee you we're going to try our best to match the rates or beat them. That's number one, right? But I want my buyer to make sure that they can sleep through the process, right? That is the most nerve-wracking time of their lives, right? Those 30 days, it's always cute at the beginning, right? Where it's like offers in, everyone's excited, PNS comes through, people are still excited. We're past the second you pass that home inspection, and it's like, all right, time to get the docs ready. This is what you're going to bring to the table, etc. That is when like buyers start really like nerve cracking, like, can I afford this more? Like, what the heck is going on? And having that level of service that not only can calm someone down that has done this a million times really does matter. And I tell buyers this all the time. It's like, there's a difference between a broker like a Snell who gets paid only when you close, and a broker that's salary based that will get their paycheck whether or not you close anyways, right? And those people that work for banks, I'm not downing them whatsoever, but there is a difference of like, hey, if you don't close, it's on you, right? It's like, it's on you. But for us, it matters a ton where it's like, hey, the relationship just doesn't end here. One of the famous coaches, Jared James from Remax, we always say that he always tells us the same thing. And it's like, every client is worth 150 grand, right? Every single client. I don't care if you're making a commission of 9, 10 grand at the beginning, every client's worth 150,000. How do I keep that client from 10 grand to 150,000 referring me all that business if I don't do a good job from day one? Right. So everyone thinks like, hey, you're chasing the dollar. And it's like, if I'm only chasing the dollar, I'm turning and burning every bit of my business, having to find new, but it can't be like that, right? Like we're building relationships that hope to last forever, right?
It's all about the relationship. I mean, you came from the school of Scotty Bizzo.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Build that relationship, do the right thing by the consumer. You do that 5 times. They were each one of those closings, 5 closings. They refer you 1. Now you got 10. Now they're selling a house. You keep monetizing that over time.
I think half the closings we have now are from past clients.
Of course.
Which when I started, I didn't have any.
Me either.
You didn't have a whole lot either the first couple of years. So it's funny because now it's like, hey, we did, or it's a relative or it's something. Like it's these repeat, and we're not having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month I mean, I'm happy that we all like kind of had that mindset that if we want to get the business and grow our business, we have to invest in it because you have to spend that money to get those leads when you don't have them.
Of course.
But once you can work those and you do it the right way, well, now you can pull back on that, and then your business shifts because now you're either one, you don't have to do as much to make as much.
Your brand recognition, people know who you are, right?
Exactly. And there's a switch that happened, and I don't remember the exact day, but it's like it happened in my business. I'm like, I don't need to go about it the same way I was going about it before.
Absolutely, and it's a beautiful thing when the phone rings for you instead of you ringing the phone to them, right? Like it's just there's such emotion that comes into play there where everything changes at that moment, right? Where all of a sudden you're no longer hunting for business, you're more hunting the relationship, right? And that with the second that an agent or a lender really kind of switches their mindset or shifts to that, that's where like your business really starts elevating, because everyone always fetches the dollar, but when you're fetching the relationship, you're fetching the referrals, and that's where all the money really starts coming in after that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very, very important, and not a lot of people kind of I don't know, either realize that or care, and they just think it's like, why do you keep wanting to pay for this forever?
It's easy to make 10 grand really fast, guys, right? Like it's and that's what people like a lot of and there's a blessing behind it. You don't want everyone to be like us, right? So like there's definitely a blessing behind that, but it's easy for someone to just go make 50 grand and still have like a full-time job, right? Where it's like, oh, this is almost like vacation money,
Yeah, it's kind of what it
investment
seems
money.
to be with, which is fine.
Yeah, and
I think
that's
that's kind of always been like a part of the real estate culture,
game. Yeah,
you know,
it's
which
just
is why
always
it's
been part
always
of the
been
game.
kind of a
And
cool
then
gig to have.
and
But
then when COVID happened, everyone got their license, right? So all of a sudden you flooded the market with agents. I'm sure lenders came in a lot too, like a lot of loan officers came into play. But you started flooding the market, and now it's getting back to that. Okay, I need someone that's knowledgeable, that's going to breeze through this process with me, because people's lives don't change just because they're buying a home, right? It's just, again, it's added stress. I have people that are either pregnant, about to have a baby, literally like just switch jobs or whatever. Like something's happening in their lives and it's like, hey, I need this now. And so much added stress is happening. And you're like, wow, like what can we all do to kind of streamline this process? And that's why I really push. That's why I'll always push, like going back to that conversation. That's why I'll always push you, because again, it's like not only does it allow me to sleep better at night, knowing that the job will get done well, but it will allow the buyer also to sleep better at night. Because here's my biggest thing, and your biggest takeaway from this is that's going to be a reflection of me, right? So if you're working with a mortgage lender or another agent in your case, right, that isn't doing a good job, you're also going to remember that I didn't do a good job, even if I did. It just is what it is, right? It's like throughout the entire
even
process.
if you're not the one that referred the person,
Absolutely.
which is crazy, but
Yeah.
it's true.
It's
I
the
mean,
truth. It's
they
the
hate
truth.
the whole transaction. They're not using anybody.
They're
that
never
was
going
part
to
of
use you in that part.
transaction.
Exactly. That whole party's gone for the next transaction. And it's just one of those things where we try to avoid as much as possible. So that way, again, it's our name. Again, it's like Vernon said, it's our brand.
Fabio, at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. You're super successful agents, insurance. I don't care what, you know, what job you're doing. If you have that trusted group of advisors and it's a process and everybody trusts each other, you don't. Those are the top guys. Those are the best people in the business across any platform, right? Because everybody trusts each other. They have a system. He's doing his job. You're doing your job. Everybody shows up to the closing table. Everybody's really happy. Right. It's the one off, and I joke around about it because I've built my business enough now, and my phone is ringing for the most part. I get to choose who I work with.
Yep.
And I get that phone call, or even a contract comes in, and it's from an agent I've never heard of, never worked with, and I'll walk into one of the other loan officers that's relatively either newer or they have some more time on their hands. I'm like, hey, I'd like to introduce you to XYZ agent over at wherever. Pass that relationship off because I don't even really want to get involved in that transaction because I don't know, right?
Exactly.
I mean, Craig always used to joke around me, Mike, any loan that's in my pipeline for more than 30 days, I'm losing money on. I don't care.
Of course.
Like if it's in my pipeline for more than 30 days, I'm losing money. Everybody's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, mentally I am. I just don't want to think about it. So if it's not cleared to close, done, out of my life.
Absolutely.
Now it could be locked and it's not closing for another 2 weeks. That's fine. But I don't want to have a talk about it. I don't want my pipeline. I don't want my processors and my staff to be looking at that loan. 30 days and everybody's making money. After 30 days, it becomes a time suck. And when I see that with agents that are trying to crack in, going back to you guys meeting in 2019, did I have a much bigger plan? No, I didn't really know what I was doing back then, like full disclosure. But, as you and Craig were talking, I knew to a point without being able to explain what I was doing back then is he was 6-8 months into the business. You're 2 years into the Remax thing, getting your feet wet. We have a great relationship. We've closed a bunch of deals. I knew you guys would grow together, right? 33, absolutely. 31, 45. I'm the old guy in the room, right? So I knew you guys were going to be able to grow your businesses that way and build all these relationships with all of these clients over the next 15 or 20 years, right? Like that's the hard part I try to explain to people. I'm still doing loans and talking to clients that I met in 2006, 2007, 2008. They're still referring me business. It's wild, right? Like,
but that's because you did a great job, right? And again, it's like if you didn't, and don't get me wrong, listen, there is always the 1 or 2 clients that got away, right? And I like to say they got away because it could be a relationship thing that I didn't catch at the beginning, or maybe y'all didn't catch at the beginning either, where it's like it just didn't mesh, right? Like there are certain relationships where you're like, okay, sure, this person will buy a home, sure, you will go make a paycheck, but what is the end result of this? This is not going to go well. This relationship isn't going to go well. What are we chasing? And I no longer chase that, right? Like at the beginning,
it's not worth the gray hair.
It's not at all. And again, it's like, it's not worth your brand. It's not worth your brand just because it didn't work out with that one individual because you knew from the beginning that it wouldn't. how did you think that was going to change through the process, right? Like your gut feeling on a lot of those instincts is truly like what gets you through this life at least. So
I
And
think
it's even like the agents or the loan officers, right? I
Mhm.
preach it, and now we have 40 loan officers. I meet a lot of agents. We go out and we do presentations, and I always tell Craig, I'm like, make sure we bring like another, one or two, three loan officers with us,
Yeah.
because there's 30 personalities at that real estate
Yes.
office or
it
that
takes
insurance company.
time, man.
Yeah.
Like, and as I've evolved and started doing other things with the company, and still maintaining the core group of agents
Mhm.
that I have, it's impossible for me to continue to do that with 30 more agents or
Of
40 more
course.
agents.
Yeah.
Like, our relationship is so established now that if we don't talk to each other for 2 weeks, it's not a big deal.
100%.
But
Yeah.
you don't talk to a new agent that you're trying to, in this
Yeah.
business. If you don't talk to a new agent for 2 weeks, well, you don't. I'm not important to you, and,
Yeah.
and they're off. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So it's like you have to put, like he was saying, you have to put two people.
Yeah.
Because an experienced agent doesn't need the hand holding from
Right.
a loan officer. An experienced loan officer does not want to do the hand holding to a new agent. So it's like, how
Right.
do these things blend together? You have to kind of put inexperience together to a point so that they can grow together to get to that point like we were able to.
Mhm. And I think like a lot of it, guys, is like agents that leave for a ham sandwich is like what I say.
It's the same
It
thing with the
just-
buyers. Like,
yeah,
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth like I'll send Snell an offer, a PNS or whatever, and not even text them anymore. I'm just like, it's just there. It's like, get to it when it does. He had to text me the other day. He was like, hey, like we're 3 days away from clear to close. Do you have a PNS? I'm like, oh, wow. Forgot about that. So I had to say, and it
happens
just
a lot,
is what it is. It just, but again, it's like the relationship there is different, but it
Hey,
all comes back to,
We had one the other day, never sent me the offer for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
yeah, I'm like,
we
hey,
still
you
still
think
make
you think
commitment.
you can close this? I'm like, you think you're good at
Ship
this?
it.
I'm like, my bad. I'm like, wait, what?
It's like, all right, it's all right.
Can you cover me on this one?
He sends me a message. He's like, hey, I think we're gonna need an extension on this. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that when the time comes.
He's like, my bad.
Hurry up and order that appraisal.
When the time comes.
We
So,
actually got it done though.
yeah, and the whole,
Yeah.
but again, it's believing the product, right? It's like, how do you expect your client to believe the product if you don't?
Yeah.
It's like you just don't. If you don't believe your product, that's like agents that don't believe in themselves, right? Like a lot of agents, like you've been doing this for so long and you still need to learn how to crack ice when you go meet a client for the first time at a house. It's like you're not believing in yourself, right? Like you do not believe in your product. You've done this so many times, right? So how do I become a better agent? I have to believe in the system, right? I have to believe the system that I've built is going to not I do not have to go back into the office for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours for one client. Right, where I used to do that with y'all, right? Where it's like 4, 5, 6 hours burned there, where that could go into lead generation, that can go into follow-up, that can go into any other thing, where that's where you really start building your
I
business.
think as you grow, you learn that stuff. I mean, I wasted a lot of time over the years doing activities and things that just, they're not money-making activities, right?
Right.
You want to come in, sit with every buyer. Each buyer's an hour consult. You do that 5 times a week. You lost 5 hours times 52 weeks in a year. You literally just lost like 5 weeks of potential
Easy.
work on lead
Yep.
gen, growing your business, scaling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all fun stuff. I mean, I think we need to get to some of the funner stuff before we wrap up this episode.
I'm over here like I'm definitely at least 35 minutes. Yeah.
A little get to know
40 minutes
Fabio
deep into
time.
this conversation.
I think we need that little get to know Fabio because, as everybody knows, one of our first episodes, I think it just came out about the only person, I think you said it, the only adult we know that takes baths on a regular basis. This is the infamous Fabio for everybody who's questioning.
Yeah.
So Fabio, clear the air.
So
how often do you take a bath?
So let's talk about some secrets first, right? So one, everyone asks me like, all right, like you still have a full head of hair. Are your grandparents full? Nobody. Like just straight bald, whole family's bald, right? So I want to start off by saying that I do believe, because I just don't randomly shower once or twice a day, that I do get to keep my full head of hair, right? So like that procedure there is like washing. The washing of the hair comes like 2 or 3 times a week instead of like a regular male that probably washes their hair every day that you soak in the shower, right? So that's how the tubby time came along,
Tubby
right?
time.
Yeah. So it's religious, right? So it's like church on Sundays, guys, right? Like at the end of the day, like every single day between the hours of like 8:30 and 9:45, and it is that long. It is that long. If you're texting me, trying to FaceTime me, call me, you just don't want to, right? Like that's what
He will answer. I've
I
done
will
it. And
answer
he's
every
called
time.
me on a FaceTime
Yeah.
from a tubby. And I'm like, dude, we don't have to do this anymore.
It's not even that. Like I've sent emails out where and this is where the attorneys come in, right? So it's like I've sent emails back out to attorneys sometimes where I'll send them just like bare kneecaps and toes. And just like a picture of like, hey, this isn't the time to bother me right now, right?
Let's get his OnlyFans
Yeah.
pictures going on his fresh
Yeah, we're gonna
toes.
drop that handle later on as well. But that's my me time, right? It's so funny. Like my wife talks about it all the time, where it's like that's like your hour and 15 minutes away from like everything, and that's like the time that I come up with the stupidest ideas.
De-stress, relax.
Exactly. And
Is
y'all,
it a bubble bath? Or
no,
just a
so
straight
this
bath?
is so we'll get into that right now. So I want to take the image out of like what this looks like.
I have a whole image in my head.
Candles.
It's gonna be way better when we crack into this, right? So it's not a soaker tub, right? So this is almost swore again, guys. My bad. So this is like a tub shower combo, right?
Yeah.
So my knees are probably like 8 inches above like the actual cover of that.
This just
tub.
gets better.
So this is gonna get way better. So something that I do, and this is the God honest truth, y'all. You can ask my wife. You can ask anybody that I talk to about this. So I'm a dryer in the tub too. So I'll drain the tub while I'm sitting there air drying. I do not need to leave the bathroom with a towel at all. I'm completely air dried by the time I walk out of that tub.
You are so relaxed when you do this, right? So
Yeah.
I take this morning. I take a shower. I touch my phone, see what time it is, and I'm like, I got 11 minutes in here.
Yeah.
Machine, right? I know it's going to take 3 minutes to brush my teeth because it's literally on a timer.
Mm.
It's amazing to me that you just allow the water to funnel out.
I just can't
drains
wait till
out.
you have children and see if tubby time is still an hour and a half.
Yeah,
because I took a shower this morning with my wife puking in the other room because she has a stomach bug now that we all had.
That we'll all
weekend.
have now in this room.
Yeah,
My
great.
1.5-year-old trying to rip open the shower curtain to come in with me because I tried to have him in the shower in
Yeah, to
the
get him
bathroom
ready. Yeah,
to just not let him destroy the rest of the house.
Yep.
So the shower was about 30 seconds long,
Mhm.
but I still had time to fix
Get
the
your
hair.
hair going. I know. No, see, like I get it. Like, see, like the difference between y'all and me is like I lock the door. I don't care if I die in that tub. I'll get texts like Cora will try and text me like 45 minutes in, like, hey, is everything good? You're not even getting an answer. Like I could be completely dead. I drowned. I fell asleep. It doesn't matter. Like you're just not getting an answer from me during that time whatsoever.
That's good. That's a downtime.
Yeah, and everyone always asks, like, aren't you freezing while you're air drying? I'm like, bitch, you got so used to it. It's been like 8 years of this residual kind of play.
You're doing the cold plunge, the tubby time.
Everything at once.
So no bubbles.
No bubble.
Any
no.
candles?
No lights on though. It's pitch black in there. It's pitch black in there. There's no lights on. It's dark as hell outside, right? So the window doesn't matter. All you can see, if I ever left the door unlocked, all you could see is like the phone screen in the back end of just the shower. But that's about it. Like that is my full blown. That is the me
You have
time.
plans when you get your net like your forever house, you're gonna just put an insane tub in it?
Yeah, like own bathroom. Like we talk about this all the time. So it's like, and not to throw her under the bus, poor thing, but like my wife's a snorer, right? So, and I'm a super light sleeper, right? So like anything, like you can open up a door downstairs and I'm waking up. So like super light sleeper. Where I've planned this out like a million times. Where it's like, hey, you want 2 kids, for example. No matter what, I need 4 or 5 bedrooms in the home because I need to go sleep by myself. Like there are times where I just go and sleep by myself. Just because I need like to rest. So when it comes down to again, it's just there's a sequence that I just don't let go of, right? Where it can be football on at 8:20. I could be literally walking through the door at 8:25. I am in that tub by 8:30. It just is what it is. It's just, but unless it's like one of those things where it's like I go out on a Friday. Like I'll give you guys an example. So before golf on Saturdays, I tubby time at 2:00. And then I go play golf at like 2:30.
Because you're not going to get it in later.
Because I'm not going to get it in later. So I just go do it beforehand, but I will do it. It doesn't. You could be waiting at the golf course. I'm sitting in the tub during that time. It doesn't matter.
Just air drying.
Yeah,
Like,
air
I
drying.
mean, I think the air drying is the best part of it so far.
But that's the best part about that, man, is like how annoying is it? Especially like hairy legs or whatever. Like I'm a Portuguese guy, right? So it's like, how annoying is it to just dry yourself after you get out of the shower? It's the most fucking annoying thing that you can go through. So I no longer have to worry about that at all.
I don't know if I could sit there for the 15 minutes it would take this large ass body to dry off.
Oh, it would take long. It takes longer than that because it takes like 10 minutes just for the tub to drain. So so it's like it goes
The
from like
last
full
45-minute
3/4
process
half,
is
you know,
just
so it's like
the ending process.
Yeah, the last
the
25
draining,
minutes is
the
just
drying.
I'm stupefied right now, right? So to share, when I get out of the shower, I look forward to like the non-new towels, like new towels that are soft on both sides.
Yeah.
Throw them away. I want those things washed like 100 times. I want like 80 grit
It's just like
sandpaper to dry myself off. I want every drop off my
just
body.
gone.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, see, like that's why the towels are irrelevant to me. Like you like
He's like, we don't even own it.
do you have a robe?
No. No. Oh, how I get out?
Oh, just in, out, like.
No, I just walk
So
to
you
my
just
room
are
butt
fully air
naked.
dry.
Yeah, fully air dried. Yeah, I
How
don't
long
need
does that take?
It takes 25 minutes usually. From the time that I start draining to the time that I'm walking into my bedroom to go to my dresser is probably like 25, 30 minutes. But like guys, I could not plan this conversation, right? Like that is that is like my start to finish right there. Like I'm walking, my hallway's carpet. My feet are bare dry at that time. Like I'm just walking butt naked to my dresser to grab my clothes.
I'm just intrigued by, and now that Craig brought this up, one kid. We don't need to have four like you're. No, two. The first kid, and then 25 minutes to air dry while like maybe the future baby, him or her, screaming, and then your lovely bride is in the other room just screaming, and you got some earbuds in. You just come rolling out like all big sexy. And you're like, what's going on out here, guys?
Nothing. I'm not even paying
Now,
attention to that.
does your wife do something for herself half an hour a day where she just shuts it down, blocks off the outside world like that?
No, like
So she doesn't understand this.
No, she loves
They
to
run
read.
out of hot water, so she's not even allowed to shower.
Yeah. Easy. Like that definitely. I had a hot water tank that just blew maybe a couple months ago. And
Can't imagine why.
And it was like 4 years old. And I'm like, like this is definitely why. But no, she's a book reader. She loves to read. So like that's her like me time every single night. So she gets like her hour and a half in of that, which is another beautiful thing. So like while I'm like scrolling through like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook,
She's
or
in the
whatever.
basement turning the hot water down, so it takes them longer to be in there. She's like, I want this to be a solid 2
it's a
hours.
great
Average
thing.
water bill $600. Fabio's water bill quarterly $6,000. What's going on at this house?
It's the gas. It's the gas. It's not even the water. Like the water is what the water, because it's like I don't know what it takes, but it's like it has to be the same amount of gallons as you guys taking a shower, right?
More.
Yeah.
The bath is way more.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, if you're in the
so
shower
long
10,
it takes
15
you,
minutes,
yeah.
that's probably how long it takes to fill up the tub, right? But when I tell you gas, like when I dip into that water, it is
Steaming?
like no, it's like 3rd-degree burns the entire way down. It is like struggling to have children will definitely be like something that happens.
This
in
is
the future.
all the secret behind it. He's never having children. He's like just burning out
Just
of me.
burning, I'm telling you, it's excruciating. Like as I
It sounds amazing. Like I take a shower and I look forward to it. I'm like, this is gonna feel great. I'm gonna come out refreshed. Like you're going in there 3rd-degree burns, and then you just sit there and air dry.
Well, there's a lot of things, like, again, it's like a lot of things that I don't miss about taking a shower. Like, I promise you guys, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I probably haven't taken a shower. It has to be close to a decade by now.
My grandma is the only other person I know that could say the same thing.
Has to be close to a decade right now, I swear to God. Like, how I wash my hair, for example, is the shower head is like one of those detachable ones, and I just wash, like I just don't have a shirt on, and I'm like leaning over the tub, and I just wash my hair. Like, that's just how.
So you don't even wash it while you're tubby time?
No, that's a whole
separate
that's
procedure.
Next
episode.
That's a whole different.
Well, guys,
procedure.
I think that's enough. We all learned a lot about Fabio and his tubby time.
That's cute.
Please like and subscribe to our channel so that we can get you more information on how to create a great head of hair to fight the genetics of the balding family by tubby time. See you guys next time.
See you later.